Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another episode of Be Your Own Boss. The video that you're watching right now, the very device that you're watching right now, is the center of our discussion today. This device, and I'm sure you have many other devices in your house right now, and can you believe, in terms of sustainability, you can make a difference in this world with this device and the other gadgets, other electronic devices that you have at home. We'll talk about how you can make this difference. Our guest this week is Mukul Anand, the founder of R3 Factory. And if you don't know what R3 Factory is, Google it. It's not just a business, it's a revolution. Let's welcome Mukul. Mukul, thank you so much for taking our time and joining us here on the Be Your Own Boss podcast. Welcome.
Thank you, Sachin, for having me this opportunity. I'm really glad that I'm here.
Mukul, this topic of sustainability through the use of electronics and the right way to use electronics, this is very, very interesting, very new. I don't think we have done any episode on this topic yet, so I'm super excited. But let's start with your journey right from the beginning. Tell us about your parents, your siblings, your childhood memories. Where were you born?
Yeah, I was born in 1980, and my father was a government employee. He was working for a power corporation, so he was always into all throughout into power generation, production, distribution.
And this was back home in
India. Back home, back in UP, Uttar Pradesh. I was born in Allahabad.
Okay.
And my dad was posted in this government. So he was all throughout, like traveling to a place called Obra, then Unchahar, and then later Allahabad, where I was born. So Unchahar, Raebareli, and Obra.
Okay.
So yeah, so he was all throughout in power, and my childhood memory is actually very bright. We used to stay in a colony, and I had like very happy childhood. I remember going to school and coming back and playing for 5-6 hours, table tennis and carom board and playing with the friends. So that very.
What kind of a child were you? Like, were you the naughty type or the studious type?
I think I always had the self-belief that I'm a very creative person, and in those days, I'm not sure whether you remember, Ramayana and Mahabharata used to come on television.
Yeah.
And I would visualize myself to be one of the character, and I always thought that I'm a very creative person. And I think even in childhood, I remember making small sculptures, writing poetries, and I was an award-winning poet also, and did some sketching and painting. So all throughout, I was quite creative, and I always felt that I'm a voice of people who don't have voice. I just have somehow that self-belief.
Yeah.
So I think my childhood was very bright, and I had quite eventful. And I was lucky that I was raised in a place where there was so much opportunity. So very good.
And what kind of education did you
Yeah,
get?
so I studied from UP board, and UP board means, as you understand, it's a Hindi medium.
Yeah.
So until grade 12, I was Hindi medium all throughout. For me, English was difficult. I didn't understand much of English. Then it was 1998 when I took admission in one of the private engineering college. That was in Ghaziabad. So I did electronics and communication engineering.
Okay.
And those 4 years quite also eventful. I was always into work and study, even in childhood. So I didn't know really, how to face the society. I didn't have much of friends, limited friends. So engineering college was those 4 years taught me lots of things. Right, face all those things which were unexpected. I think
You were in hostel?
I was initially 1 year I was in hostel, and then I couldn't really take that hostel.
Okay.
So then I started living, separately, and I used to study quite hard. All I knew was that if I top the exam, I'll have a good job. So second year onwards, I also increased my score because I used to study, crazy amount of hours, 16, 17 hours a day actually.
Wow.
Yeah. And my dream was, like, since I had a taboo of, like, say, doing engineering from a private engineering college, I thought that one day I'll be able to score good GRE and go to US like anybody else. I thought at least I can wipe off this, mark of studying from private college. So I used to study very hard, and I still remember, memorize English words. I'm not sure whether but if to qualify GRE, you have to really memorize lots of words. So there are 2,500 words, and I studied very hard and memorized all those English words, and I was prepared for GRE.
Okay.
Then it was 2002, and 2002 was a year of recession, and I don't know whether I will really get a good job or not. And I also had a friend of mine who I thought that, he was also very creative, and he used to do lots of sketches. So I thought maybe we can try something new, and I always had an idea that I can be an entrepreneur. And those days I was quite excited to see that leather is booming industry, and I used to go out and say, okay, leather jackets are very expensive, and on a fashion word. So I gave exam of NIFT and cleared NIFT Kolkata, though I didn't join it.
Okay.
So it was just one day, and I just realized that, okay, after engineering, getting into NIFT and doing the leather business may not be the right way. So then I came back and started doing a job in, there's a company called Havells India Limited.
Havells.
Yeah, so it was 2000, it was 2002, 2003, 2002, 2003. I worked there for 9 months, and again I was lucky. My boss was like he was an IITian, and I got to learn a lot from him. So actually from day one, you put me a job of managing lots of people, supervising them, and also got into quality. So first initial few years of my career, it was 2002, 2003. I felt that I'm a guy with a quality. So what quality means is like SPC, SQC, ISO, all that stuff. So I was the auditor for the company, and I also got exposed to quality tools called 5S and all. And then it was like after 6-7 months, I had to clear one of the exam. In fact, I didn't tell you, like while preparing for NIFT, actually I flunked in my 7th semester. So it was again a shock for me because I was a very bright student. I was always in top 5. Yeah. Just because of that NIFT thing, I really didn't focus.
Kind of distracted.
Yeah, I got distracted. But yeah. Then I had 2 things to do. So I was not wasting my year because I was already working in Havells India Limited. And so I had to clear the exam. After clearing, I got really good marks over there. It was a digital communication, I still remember. Then I landed here in 2003 in Dubai and started working for a company which is called Service City. It was the offshoot of Axiom Telecom. They were one of the largest distributors. So it was 2003. And in my mind, I was still thinking that I should do the post-graduation from the US. So in fact, from all the way from Allahabad and Ghaziabad, I carried all my books, engineering books here. I thought like maybe let me work for some time and then earn money and go and do masters in the US. So, but after coming over here, I realized it was a fantastic environment, and I didn't know that I had got some leadership qualities in me. I was so my initial job was to test mobile phones. So those days there were equipment called CMU from Road Insurance. So I used to test mobile phones. Like it was Nokia days actually. Nokia ruled the whole, like so from 2003 till 2007, 2008. It was Nokia's period. There were thousands of phones, and it was a Nokia's regional repair factory. And I remember we used to handle around 48 countries, neighboring countries. The repair factory was here in Dubai.
So you were testing the phones after the repair, whether it is...
No. My job was initially to test incoming test basically. So, neighboring country like, Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, even your Qatar, all these countries, they used to send the phones to us from authorized repair center. So basically it was a level 3, level 4 repair center. So whatever phone they can't fix, they were sending it to us. And my job was to do the testing and find out what's the fault it has. It was automatic testing and also manual testing. So my job was to test and enter the details of the defect in the phone. I was not sure that why my career is going towards repair side, but I gave my 100%. And it was like very punishing for anybody else. For me, it was rewarding because I got to work a lot. From my day, it may sound to be untrue, but I used to start my day at 6 and finish my day at 11 o'clock in the night or 12 o'clock in the night because I was so much passionate. I thought it's a great environment. And because of that, I also grew up in the ladder. So I started as a quality technician, and after, in 10 years, I became the head of business development when I was leaving them. So first 10 year was great time. In 2007, I was given opportunity to set up the Asia's largest repair factory. That was in India. In fact, we had won the Nokia tender. So that was the time I was certain, like I have already worked for 4 years, and this is the year I already have enough of money. I'm going to US. Then we won the Nokia tender. It was 2007, and my boss said, like, say, go and set it up. So you see a small spot over here. I'm not sure. So actually, I used to. It was a very crazy project, and it was like Nokia wanted us to repair 40,000 phones a month, and all I had was just a briefing, since I was part of the tender documentation. So I knew that what is supposed to be done. I was running around every day, 60, 70 kilometers on bike. Checking that which place is better, whether Gurgaon, Noida or Delhi. And I came up around 30, 35 locations listed. And then I had around 8 months, and the outcome of the 8 months was there were around 250 people hired, and all our systems were in place. And we started repairing 40,000 phones a month.
Wow.
So that was a time when I realized that to do something big, I don't have to really go and do any big high stuff MBA
Masters
from the US. Then my CEO, he came up saying, okay, no, this project is done, and they said, okay, would you like to continue heading this Indian operation? I said, no, that's not my goal. So though there were 250 people, it was a great opportunity, quite a proud moment, and it was not just like me, because I had a great team around me. And I think we all really worked very hard. I remember countless number of hours, but that was like a reward. It's like, sometimes when you love something, you don't really count hours.
Yeah.
For me, that was happening. I used to sit a lot, in fact, so that was my way of working. Decide and keep going on without, being bothered. I had great focus.
And I think that's something that has stuck with you even now.
Yeah,
right?
even
like
now.
Even now you
Yes,
work
yes.
a lot.
Yeah, correct.
The hours that you
So as people say, I think this is what my rust means. Like that's my pleasure,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we always look for our kind of pleasure. So for me, that was my pleasure. So 2007, yes. Then my CEO said like there were some issues going on. It was I think 2009, I remember, if I remember correctly. So then I was on a very different kind of project where I had to go to Egypt and close down service centers. So that was another. I didn't know anything about Arabic, but I still went there, and with lots of hard work, ended up doing successfully. Did it. Then I went to Saudi Arabia. They said, okay, now we have set one repair factory and closed few service centers in Egypt. Now there's another challenge was Saudi Arabia, where we had there was big challenges in terms of after sales service for Axiom in Saudi. And I said, okay, I don't want to go to Saudi, because that was the same year when I was getting married. So 2009 was the year I was getting married. I said, I don't know whether my future wife would like to stay in Saudi.
So this was like you go and live in Saudi. Like
Live in Saudi and work in Saudi. Set up manage the entire Saudi service operation.
Okay.
I'm getting the same year married, same year got promoted as a country service head. How am I going to manage it? So it was both, obviously, marriage was on top of my mind. I was excited that some girl is coming to my life finally after working so long. And also it was a good promotion for me. Like I became a country head, and where I had to manage around 125 people, had to work around across all the department. So I said, okay, let me manage it. So I went back and told my bosses that allow me to stay in Bahrain and every day up and down. They had agreed. I didn't know that this arrangement will put toll on me. So you can't manage both. In fact, this is the sad part of the current reality, when you're working in family life. So I used to start my day again 8 o'clock, and I'm not sure whether you're familiar with Bahrain and Saudi, the way it works. So you have to cross way, and so every day I used to spend around 1 hour, 2 hours actually up and down. But I was quite successful business wise. In fact, I managed to take service centers from zero to top service centers in matter of 2 years.
Okay.
Then, in fact, when I look back, I said I did nothing. In fact, it's not like I'm a great technician or I'm a great accountant or something like that. But what I actually did, a few changes. Like, I remember those days people were using mobile phone, they were not picking phones. And then we said, okay, how I can really put 125 people in sync. So we came up with a very simple idea of implementing walkie-talkie.
Okay.
So I remember, I used to have one. So we had 13 walkie-talkies, 13 service centers. It was a Bravo, and somehow we went to government and we got the approval for the walkie-talkie. So I used to speak from Bahrain and they all will hear across Saudi. And imagine the walkie-talkie is always buzzing. Oh, I need this spare part. Oh, this customer is urgent and this and that. Suddenly, the communication barrier was gone. Right? Suddenly, people start talking to each other. So
everybody's talking to each other
because people were lazy on phone. They were not using phones, but they had to actually respond on Bravo. Like as you would see, policemen talking to one another, and there's a beep and all that.
Because it's not the phone ringing; it's the message directly.
So
like it's
such a small thing, and then we put lots of processes, and process not something like which is written and put on the computer. So my goal was like, say, write a process on a chart and display it. So there were around 13 service centers and 3 main service centers, and rest of them were collection points. So we made sure that the team was put together. They had communication there was no communication gap, and we started acknowledging that we were doing good or bad. So it was just engagement, and performance was magical. And suddenly you see people, same set of people, they started performing. So in fact, when I landed Saudi, they said, okay, fire everybody and hire a new team. And in fact, to your surprise, I had to only fire one guy, and the rest of the 124 people they were there.
I think it's your leadership that led you to
I think you can say that, but I think I would say it was like I also had a great team around me. In fact, they supported the idea of, and earlier there was no structure and they all were having their own issues. So when you put the budget in place and you start treating people with respect, all people want is that tap of their back after they do something remarkable. And we also used to have fun. So award, communication, putting the correct processes, and so those were golden years in my career. And then one day I decided, okay, I have done it, and now I want to go back and because enough of up and down between Bahrain and Saudi. So my owner said, okay, I said I actually had put my papers, right, and I was like, I didn't have courage to actually put my resignation. So, but I typed that message, and I was not pressing the send button. So my son was like, I think 1 year at that time, one and a half. He went and pressed the button actually. That message went to my boss, and he called me, okay, why are you leaving? I said, sir, I think I've done it. So actually, thanks to my son, actually he pressed that send button for my resignation letter. Then he said, okay, what do you want? I said, give me any project, I'll do it. Because I always had a feeling that anybody can do anything. And it's just that because after doing the India project and after setting up the Saudi Service Center, he said, okay, come over to Dubai. And it was a big risk on me because leaving 125 people, in Saudi and again starting from zero. And I said, okay, it's an amazing thing to do. And like as we call it in business development, build, operate and transfer, BOT. They said, okay, you set up a business. I said, this is going to be a phenomenal opportunity for me because I think that I'm an entrepreneur. And on someone else's money, if I can get a chance to build a company or create new things, it will give lots of boost. So it was 2011. They had a challenge of mobile phones buyback. Axiom Telecom was the leading retail and leading distribution across the region, not just in UAE. So they had around 200 showrooms. So the challenge given to me was customer would come with their old phones, and our job was to buy it back and upgrade newer phones to the customer. So my job was only on a buyback, and those days we used to lose lots of money. Then I said, okay, let me study. As I said, my childhood, I would say initial of the career, I got exposed to the quality tools. So I was like, I always knew the quality tools. I used to use Excel and, PowerPoint and all this stuff. Then I did like VSM, it's called value stream mapping, and realized this is where the problem is. So I fixed those problems, and suddenly the project, which was making 40% loss, started making 17% profit.
Wow.
So that was also, that gave confidence to the management that this guy can do something.
Yeah.
So
Can you tell us more about that project? So, like, you had a project which was making 40% loss.
yes, yes.
And this project was about buying and selling a
Buying and
expensive phone,
selling. Yes, yeah.
more expensive phone
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
customer.
yes.
How was it making loss then?
See, the buyback, the way it works is like, say, for example, if I have to buy someone's phone, so and there were two things which you actually check. One is the cosmetic condition and one is functionality, right? And if you know, and if you pay the right price to the customer, that then only you can sell and sell with profit. So earlier there was no process of properly checking it, and the salesman at the shop level were making lots of mistakes. So, for example, they would say this is grade A. I'm just saying, but let's say there are 4 grades A, B, C, D. So they were saying this is grade A, and when the device would travel to the warehouse, it was found on grade C. So, like say for example, you have paid X, and but when you are selling it, because since it was not the quality which was supposed to be, so it was they were making losses. So what I had,
the salesman would pay
more to the
than
customer,
what,
yeah, yeah.
what was
Because they were not properly trained. Also, there were no processes. So my job was, and in fact, they were also holding the inventory. They thought that they can sell all the used phones. So it was complete process which was completely broken. So this is where value stream mapping comes into picture, wherein understanding that how much time it takes from the end customer to the retail sales advisor to back to the warehouse and back to the testing it and making sure you sell it. So it's complete chain.
Right.
And even if one falters, the whole thing collapses. So, and for me, since I was from service background, I always had dealt with technicians, and it was something new, interesting. And it was quite easy project. It was quite obvious that we were taking so much of time to sell. So I had put up the processes with minimal, with 10,000 dirham investment. We started making profit, and then my boss said, "Okay, you already have the used phone. Let us set something, and start selling used phones." So then the brand called Phone 2 was evolved. It was again back in 2012, 2011, 2012. Under Axiom. So then I established Phone 2 brand, and selling used phone was a challenge because, as you would know, like if you have to sell anything which is used, so you should be able to see. Normally, customer will not just buy. Imagine that you have phone which is inside the box, which is opaque. You can't see inside. So there's a chances of devices won't get sold unless until you see it. So we came up with a very unique kind of packaging, which was transparent packaging, where you can see from all the sides the phone. It was again one kind of innovation, and to reach that innovation, I had to participate in Jitex.
Yes.
So I participated in Jitex Shopper, tried selling used phones. So I stood there for 3 days, trying to understand what exactly customer wants and how you can actually sell used phone. Then how Eureka moment was like, I saw every customer wants to open the box and check. I said, how we can stop it? Then we came up with this transparent packaging and clear-cut grading. So buyback project became successful, and the used phone project also became very successful. So I was like, my boss said, okay, if you can make this much of profit, you'll have this much of incentive. And we started making huge, like he expected 1 million dirham profit, and we gave him 5 million dirham profit.
Wow.
And it was the only reason why we gave so much of profit was, I said, guys, and I had around 17 people that time. It was a new department. I told the guy, like, say, guys, whatever money I make, it's all because of you. So I'm going to distribute it all to you all. And this is exactly what I did. So they all agreed to work in lower salaries because it was my project. I said, guys, I don't know which direction we are going, but the reward comes, everybody is part of it. And there were regular reports, transparency. They could see that what phones are coming, what phones are being sold, and also back and forth integration with the channel. Like I had to go and work with our IR channel and our
what channel? Sorry,
IR means independent retailer channel. So within Axiom, they were retailing, and they also had distribution channel. So they had lots of vans going to the market. So the work was all back and forth, right? From the retail side, bringing the devices, processing it, and selling it back, back to the channel online, IR. So lots of, I would say, transparency to your people, fairness to the customer, doing a job with 100% honesty, no compromise. It was a tricky project because you're dealing with the used phones, and it can be tricky if the moment you compromise, then it can really put you, because manufacturers would not like it, like say eating their own share. So we had to do it everything correctly.
And also from the customer's perspective, buying used phones, was there like a resistance of like, oh, why should I, or was there is there a certain category of customers that prefer used
Those
phones?
days, I would say, see, used phone has always been, there. In fact, when I started the project, I studied that what's happening in US, and it was back in 2012, 2011. I studied that okay, there are around $20 billion business happening already in US
On used phones.
on used phones, and those days were the year of Blackberries. If you remember, BlackBerry was the king, and we used to get lots of Blackberries, 9900, 9910, and people were using BBTM, BBM.
BBM.
Right? That was
And
like
BB pins and all.
yeah, and it was like unimaginable to think that okay, ever BlackBerry will be replaced, and so we used to sell quite a lot of used BlackBerries. And it was quite successful, and especially you can sell anything used when you give warranty, and phone 2 was quite trusted. Phone 2 warranty, we were giving our own warranty, so customer didn't mind buying used product. So it was 2013, 14, and then it was already making profit. Then I hired a new manager to run that project. So build, operate, transfer. So until that, my life was always like say, take so much of pain to build something and transfer it to someone else.
Yeah.
Then my bosses said, okay, start something at customization. Customization was like let's say customer walks into the showroom and you have used phone. How to make used phone look really appealing and sexy. So it was a brief was given was to me like to use bling, crystals, Swarovski crystals, and laser engraving and UV printing and painting. So the brief given to me was like very vast, as if like you have to learn the whole world. I said, okay, I'll follow the same principle. Ask me to build rocket, I can build rocket as long as if I have the right engineers. So bit of study, and again I was like I could attract the right kind of talent, and then put it all together. So the brand was initially called X Customs, then later it became Switch. So the project was very unique and making any used product look appealing, and it was then it was 2017, 16 actually, and 17. So then I decided, like say, I have already done enough. By the way, like say, even the phone 2 business I set up in Saudi, UAE, Switch business I done in Saudi and UAE, and 17 I said, okay, let me do on my own, because my goal was never to do all this. My goal was to create more and more employment, and somehow the crazy number I always had in my mind that one day I'll be able to touch 10,000 lives. It's just a number which I said. What's the rationale? What's the logic? I didn't know. I said, okay, if I work for a company where things are not in my control, probably I'll never achieve it. So only way was to start my own and able to touch 10,000 lives. So
and before we go to your entrepreneurial journey here, I still want to go back to the leadership part, and most of what you were able to build, operate, and transfer. The hiring of the right talent was at the center of it.
Yes, 100%.
Most of it, right?
100%.
So can you tell us more about that, hiring the right talent? How do you hire the right talent? How do you find? How do you retain?
Yeah, I think, I go with like, by the way, I was given a People Award in Singapore in my company, and they recognize that like I was the people manager, more people leader, I would say. And somehow from the childhood, I knew that like you can't do everything alone. Like say, even when I was country service manager for services in Saudi, so apart from running, service operations, I was also helping other departments. So hiring was like, I would say they are always right kind of people who are always around you. And I think all it requires is like value them, make them realize their strength. So it's not necessarily that you always have to hire new kind of talent. Yes, hiring for the right attitude is important, and somehow you can know that there are people who say, yes, I can, even though they may not have the right kind of skill set. So you can always take a judgment. I think I was always lucky that I always had an eye for the right kind of people.
Do you look for skills or the will to learn, or what is your...
See, always a mix. I think depending on the role. Like say, if it is a customer service, so I would always look for the person at least who can talk. and who's humble, who can communicate. Anybody who comes out to me very arrogant, even though they are talented, I don't take them. And once it comes to skill set, like say, it's always a mix of science and the art. That's how I hire people. So, in fact, I have a very unique way of hiring. Though we had our HR department, so I would always believe, like, I had created one new email called Best Manpower, and in fact, that how difficult it was to hire in Saudi. So I used some tricks and techniques, and like creating email IDs, and there was some free website where I would post and filter those guys. So I did quite a lot of experiment with people. So, like say they would fill up the Google form. I'll look for the right kind of people, at least who meet my criteria, and then call them to office, and then make the selection. And in fact, Saudi, we had a challenge of hiring Saudis. So I said, okay, how I can find Saudis who also understand English and Urdu and Arabic. So in fact, the solution was like finding Pakistanis who married to Saudi, by the way. So that's how I was like. And though we had lots of Saudis, but I'm just saying that's how. So you had to, it's called, I would say, situational leadership. So I think different situation, like when I was in India, there was no dearth of people. So in fact, I had to hire around 250 people. I'm talking about 2007, 2009. So there were lots of people. In fact, for 250 people, we had more than 2,000 applications. Exim had a JV with Future Group. I'm sure those days was Kishore Bianis.
Yeah.
So they were all surprised that how come this guy is getting lots of CVs, and we used to conduct interviews, and there were initial interview and final interview. Initial interview was all about skills and know-how, and final interview was always about eye contact, body language, willing to learn, willing to grow. So I think yes, we make sure that we get that right kind of talent, and it was one of the best team which we hired. So hiring is always very tricky. You have to hire at the right price, because if you overpay, your P&L gets affected, and they can't have future growth. So it's not like you're always hiring for the lowest price. It's always hiring the right kind of talent, filling the right kind of leadership, making sure that they are taking care even in future. So I was very happy. I think I was constantly able to make the right decision. Even in that, what has helped even in my current business.
Yeah. How did that idea of R3 factory start?
Yeah, so it was 2017 where I decided that I will be on my own. Though it was a very painful decision after working for 13 plus years. It was like, it's your own baby. I used to always tell Mr. Faisal, he was the CEO, that it's my own company. And I behaved like that. And I thought that I cannot be even anything else. I always, wherever I'm working, because I'm already giving my life, whether be an owner or be an employee, I'm becoming old. So I'm giving my life. It's not like employee is given less life compared to the owner. Both give the same kind of life. So 2017, I realized that time is up. Okay, it's enough of for me to do something. And then I looked at my career. My career was all about repairing, where it was setting up repair factory, service centers, buyback, customization. I said, okay, I'm unknowingly, the question which I had in the beginning of my career, that why I'm into repair, then I found an answer, like, oh my God, I know repair, buyback and all that, and literally what I have done is I have learned something about sustainability. I think the mission itself, like say I'm trained, for last 13 long years to be deeper into repairs. Repairs comes very natural to me. Buyback comes very natural to me. Selling and customization comes very natural to me, because 13 long years I was just doing it day in, day out. So repair, renew, reuse, and that's how I started a company called R3 Factory.
So that's part one of the Mukul Anand story, the R3 Factory story. And stay tuned for part two. In part two, we're going to explore a lot more about Mukul's entrepreneurship journey, how he funded his business, and how you can, as an individual, make a difference in the world of sustainability in terms of using your gadgets at home. So Mukul tells us all about this in part two. Stay tuned for that, and that'll come next week.